Hey everybody, JC here with Simple Builds Volume 3, upgrading your MPC rocket kits. So on the workbench I have 5 different MPC rockets. Now there have been various incarnations of MPC, and this is the latest one. These were built around 2012, 2013. Company's defunct now, but they are available for a number of manufacturers, or I should say resellers. So this is the first one I picked up. It was at a yard sale for $1. And then I saw these on sale, so I picked them up. I think these 3 were 3 for, I don't know, $6, $7, and I think this one was $5. Now you may notice that a lot of similar things about these rockets. This one's different, of course. So now the Klingon, which I have already built. Now you may notice something interesting about this is that these rockets are 100% plastic. So nose cone's plastic. In this case, the tiny payload bay is plastic. The fins are plastic. The fin can is plastic. The body tube is actually plastic, as are the launch lugs. Okay, so the upgrades I'm going to talk about today mostly have to do with the fin can and the motor mount. And also the shock cord, which of course you can't see. So all the changes that I'm going to talk about today were done on this rocket, with the exception of I did not put a screw-on retainer on here. I decided to use this motor clip. And because I use this motor clip, that's why I'm now advocating to put on screw-on retainers. Okay, so let's go ahead and get these boxes off here, and then we'll show you what's inside. Okay, so I've opened up one of the boxes, and this is the Duck Dodgers Cadet Cruiser with Porky Pig on it. And as I mentioned, these things are completely made of plastic. So they have a plastic nose cone. I'm not really sure what kind of plastic this is, but I'd venture a guess that you probably can't paint it. Plastic fin can. The body tube is actually plastic with a very colorful wrap on it. It's not spiral wound. It's got some stickers. It's got a NAR application and NAR rules of rocketry. So, you know, they're trying. Now, as I mentioned, this company is defunct. They have written instructions, pretty descriptive. They have a very colorful parachute, which you have to build. Now, I'm not going to build this because this isn't really going to be a build video, but the thing is gigantic. Okay. So the main thing we're going to do here, as I talked about upgrading, is that we're going to upgrade the motor mount and the shock cord mount. So this little bag of parts has all the other components in it. Let's get this cleaned up here. So it comes with a trifold anchor that's just plain paper. The motor tube, and you'll notice that it's not spiral wound, it's just wrapped around paper with a seam right there. The 4 plastic fins, engine hook that, well, it's not flexible. I would say, you know, garbage. These are stickers for the parachute, shock cord, interwoven in with the shroud lines. Super short, probably get rid of that. And then the launch lugs, which are also plastic. So what I'm going to say is junk this, junk this, junk this, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to rebuild the motor mount using a real tube, screw-on retainer, etc. So let's clear this off, and I'll show you the parts that we need to upgrade this to something useful. Okay, I've assembled all the parts that we're going to use to turn this into something a little more reliable, a little better build. So, as I mentioned, This is the original motor tube, and this thing is super short. It is 2 3/8 of an inch long. So here's a standard motor tube, okay, and you see that it's 2 3/4 of an inch long. This is actually still a little short for what we want to do, so I say we're going to get rid of that. And what we want to do is we want to use this screw-on retainer, get rid of that flimsy engine hook. Now the problem with the screw-on retainer, it's not really a problem with the retainer, is that if you want to fully engage the threads, okay, this motor tube is a little too short. Okay, here I'll show you why. So let's say we put an engine block in here, right? And then we have a motor, and then we put this on here. This is what it would look like when it was fully assembled. Now you'll see that it pushes the engine block out, so it's barely engaging the tube. So I want a tube that's a little bit longer than this. Okay, and that's what this piece of BT20 is for. We're going to cut some pieces off of it and use it as a motor tube. Now, this tube would be perfectly fine lengthwise, except for the fact that, there we go. See, so that's no problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut a piece of tube 3 inches long, and then that'll give us extra length. Okay, this is going to go over the top, and it's going to anchor it onto this. So I'm still going to use, as an example, I'll use this one. So we'll have this anchoring it from the bottom, and this anchoring it from the top. Okay, and then we'll use some Kevlar. We'll put it around here, come through here. Okay, and that's where our shot cord, right here. I'm using this one. Other one was like 1.5 feet long. This one's 2 feet long. We'll use a couple of feet of Kevlar, and then we'll put a snap swivel at the end. Okay. Now, if you're wondering what this is clay for the nose. I have heard that these rockets are a little light in the nose area. So we're going to put about 3 or 4 grams of clay in the nose, and hopefully that will make it a little bit more stable. So, all right, so let's get this tube cut, and then we'll move forward with our build. All right, so we got our tube cut to 3 inches. I just use your basic tube cutter from Estes there. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to, since this is going to be glued inside this, we're going to rough up the tube a little, not a whole lot, just a little bit. Just enough to get that shiny part off there. Okay. Okay, and then just a little bit more down here at the bottom where we're going to glue on our screw-on retainer. Now I like to do them parallel with the end, so they'll grip. Now the other thing is very important to rough up the inside of this also. Okay, so now if it was a 24 millimeter, I'd probably use epoxy for this, but because it's just an 18, there we go, I'm going to use some gel super glue. Okay, and I'm going to put it inside this, and then I'm going to slide the tube in there. I can put it on the tube. It doesn't really matter. Either way is fine here. So I'll just do here. Okay. Now I'm going to put just a tiny bit inside here also. I mean, basically you want good coverage. All right. If you get too much on there, no big deal, right? Okay, so we'll get it on, then we'll twist it on there. Okay. Okay. Now, as I said, it's going to be glued inside this, right? So now we can go ahead and while we're waiting for this to dry, we can go ahead and put some glue inside this and slide the whole thing in there. So, oops. forgot the cardinal rule of roughing things up. There we go. All right, let's get some glue inside this. Okay. Then let's wipe off any excess. Okay, because we are going to be gluing the centering ring on here to hold on our Kevlar. Okay, so that should be good. And then a last little wipe with the finger just to get any excess out of the inside. Okay. Okay, so the other thing we're going to do is we're going to cut a little notch on the inside of this. Now, I like to use a small metal file that I, of course, cannot find. Oh, there it is. You can use your knife. I prefer the file because I can make a nice square one very easily. I don't have to actually worry about slicing through the ring. I have done that. It's very annoying. Okay, a little bit deeper maybe. All right, that should be fine. And check the fit on another tube. Yeah, looks good. Okay. Make it a little bit bigger on the bottom and the top part. Okay, so now we want to tie a loop around this. You can use your favorite knot, half hitch, double half hitch, square knot, whatever it is, you know. Of course, no matter how many times you do this in practice before you start the video, you always end up making it the wrong size. So I think it's some kind of video rule. Okay, here we go. Boy, it's being very cantankerous. Let's do it this way. Now, it doesn't have to be super tight around this. Like, we're going to glue it all in there anyway. Okay, so we got that on there. We have it slanted upward like this. So we'll slide the ring through that. Okay. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. I'm just going to tuck this inside. I'm going to put a little CA, thin CA, there it is, on this knot. Okay. Then we're going to take some wood glue. Put it around here. And once again, this is all going to be hidden, so you don't have to worry about making it look real pretty. The important thing is you want to get it down there, work the glue in a little bit, and force the whole thing down so it's nice and snug. Okay, down there. Then put your ring on. Putting the Kevlar through the little notch you made, like that. Okay, pull that up. And just, there we go. And then push that all the way down. Okay, and then while it's sitting here, put a fillet around the top. And the thing that's nice about this is you don't have to worry about getting any glue on the ring or anything because it's not gluing to anything other than the motor tube. So what you're essentially doing is you're making sure that the motor tube is wedged into the fin can, right? On the top and the bottom. Okay. Put a little more glue there. So I'm just trying to upgrade this to replace the very flimsy engine hook slash glue the tube in there and hope it doesn't come out setup that they currently have. Probably a lot less pretty than other ones you've done. But like I said, the whole thing is that you're wedging it in there. So you've got the motor screw-on retainer here holding it at the bottom, and you've got your retaining ring up here with your Kevlar at the top. Okay. Now the last thing we're going to have to put in is the motor block. But I'm going to go ahead, before I glue that in, I'm going to let everything sit here and dry. And when that's all done, we'll come back to that. Okay, we're back and the glue is dried. As you can see, while I was waiting for the glue to dry, I went ahead and finished the other rockets. Now, you probably have a couple questions. Like, first of all, there were 4 rockets to build, not 3. And one of these does not look like the other 2. So I'll answer the second one first. So I was looking through my parts box. I found these 2050 centering rings. And the other one I had was part of a set, which I didn't want to break up. So I found some cardstock rings. These are 2055. So I just cut a pair of them, glued them together, and used that. It fits inside the body tube, no big deal. So as to the other one, like where there were 4 rockets, well, it turns out that the 4th rocket has a completely different motor holding mechanism. So it has a bayonet type, okay, and then it has these 4 tabs here that hold the motor in place. So, as you see, so these are pretty good. No reason to replace this really. And since there are 4 of them, I think it's going to be okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave this. The only other thing that has to be done with this one is a place to determine where you want to put the shock cord. And I'm leaning towards, I can get this off. There we go. Just drilling a hole through here, because this is hollow all the way around. Just drilling a hole in here somewhere and just running the shock cord all the way down. Or the alternative, okay, if this rocket has a transition that's hollow and it has this X here, the other alternative would be to, say, tie a shock cord here. And maybe the best thing to do would be to make a yoke, where I tie one here, have them come together, put some heat shrink on there. These are pretty solid, pretty thick. I doubt that the ejection charge is going to melt these. it's pretty far because it's all the way at the other end of the tube. So you can see here you have this on one end, this on the other end. So, Star Traveler. Oh, one thing I did find out, the Star Traveler is evidently exactly the same rocket as the MPC Red Giant, just a different decoration. So, I thought that was interesting. So, what I'm going to do now is I got to glue in these engine blocks, and then I'll make up a yoke for this, and then we'll get that taken care of, and then we'll be ready to finish up these rockets. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these yellow spacers to push the engine block the rest of the way up there. We'll put it in there part way. Let me see exactly how far it needs to go in here first. So I'll have an idea of where to put the glue at. Okay, so it looks like it's about 1/8 of an inch or so below the top. Okay, so let's push that down a little ways. Get some glue about out here. I think I have another tube someplace. Bottle. I think the other one's tight bond, I'm not sure. I've used many different glues. If you ever want to get in an argument with a Rocketeer, talk to him about glue to use. It's kind of like a model railroader trying to talk about what size wire to use. Okay. So I'll get my handy skewer here. Okay, move this out of the way. Let's put some glue in here, right above where the engine block is. Okay, that looks like it should be plenty. This isn't the engine block isn't very thick, so you don't have to have a huge amount of glue to make a fillet for it. All right, so we'll just screw this on. We'll push it all the way up. Okay. Well, as usual, as soon as you say something, it turns out to be wrong. So I'll put a little extra glue in there. I'm a big believer in less is more with glue. A lot of people put in way too much glue. Way more than you need. But sometimes you don't put in as much as you need. All right, so let me take this off. Pull this out. Okay, and done with that one. Go on to the next one. It's in place. Put this in. Push it in a little ways. Some glue on here. Repeat the process. This time putting a little more glue onto the surface. Okay, that looks like a little more glue. Put this on here. Screw it on. Okay. So. All right, so 2. And our third one. I guess I could have just used the same one over and over again. Oh well. This engine block is a little bent out of shape, but nothing a little force can't solve. Of course, I think I am a little shy on my glue here. As I said before, I'm pretty sure there's a rule that says no matter how many times you check something, as soon as you decide to make a video of it, you will have too much, too few, too little, or you'll forget something. The good things is, especially with building rockets, is there's a lot of tolerance when it comes to measuring, cutting, etc. We're not talking a lot of precision work, maybe on high power, not so much on lower power rockets, or scale models or something like that where you want precision. Okay, so let's put this in here. All right, put that in there. Take that out. Okay, I think we're pretty good here. Let's spread that out just a tiny bit here. Probably should pull that spacer out. All right. So now that that's done, we do have a couple more things we need to do. So we need to tie on our other part of the shock cord. So we're going to, on the end of each one of these Kevlar ones, we're going to put some elastic. And so I pre-cut these. This happens to be 3/16 inch elastic, or 5 millimeter. So for a rocket this heavy, I think 1/8 inch is a little undersized for it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a loop here in the end of the Kevlar, and then we'll tie the shock cord to it. Loop doesn't have to be real big. There we go. Needle nose pliers are great for a lot of things, including this. Okay, there's one done. And as always, I like to put a little thin CA on these knots. Kevlar does not tend to make the tightest knots, at least in my experience. I'm sure there'll be 600 people out there who will completely disagree with me. As I said, a lot of people in rocketry have their own way of doing things, and some people will not tolerate dissension in the ranks. You must do this. So I'm not that kind of guy. I like to, I have ways I like to do stuff, but hey, if someone else comes up with a good idea, I'm not afraid to use it, especially if it turns out it's going to work. And I've been doing this for a long time, but hey, still learn stuff. I didn't like self-proclaimed experts in model railroading, and I don't like them in model rocketry either. So, okay, so let's put a little drop of glue on this. Like I said, I'm just putting just a little bit on here. It'll soak into the fibers of the knot, and then we'll be good to go. Where did it go? There it is. Okay. Now, on each one of the ends of these, I'm going to tie the length of this, and then on the end of this, I'm going to tie a snap swivel. Now, I have a couple different sizes here. Doesn't really matter. As long as it's not too big to fit in the rocket, and these are pretty big rocket. So you're talking nose cone. I'll have to clean that flash out, I think. But we're talking, no problem. So I like these safety snaps. I've never had a parachute or shroud line hang on this. If you have problems with it, little tape right over the top of it will cover it. So, All right, so I'm going to let these dry and the knots dry. I'm going to take a little of this excess glue off, because my less is more strategy did not necessarily work. Okay, well, it looks good. All right, so next thing we'll do is we'll put on the rest of the shock cord on these, and then also when I come back, I'll have made the lanyard for this, and we'll be moving on. Okay, so the shock cords are all set up. Each one has a length of Kevlar and then a length of elastic. And then so here's the transition. I made my little yoke, put some shrink wrap on there. In case you're wondering, I used a lighter, that's why it's black. There's a little double connection there. And then it's got some elastic and a snap swivel on the end. Okay. So before we glue everything together, which I'm probably not going to bother to show since I'm not really showing you how to build it, I'm showing these modifications. We need to put some nose weight in there. So now I'm only going to put nose weight in the 3 shorter rockets. The longer rocket, the Star Traveler, based on some rough measurements and stuff, I don't see any reason why I could possibly need any nose weight, and so I'm willing to risk it. So got my handy nose weight compression tool right here. So we'll just take some clay, break off a piece, stick it down the hole, do a little compression, break off another piece. And, you know, even though we're working on rockets, definitely not rocket science, although technically I guess rocket science is what would tell you that it needs to have weight in the nose. I did not look for any OR sets for this or put them into OR, just, you know, couldn't be bothered. So besides, I mean, the whole thing's plastic. If it crashes, I highly doubt there'll be any damage. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay. I'll move on to the next one. Then we'll get that taken care of real quick. Now, on other rockets, I do highly recommend that you make sure, especially with your own design, that you put them through OR or RockSim or something to make sure they're stable. Now, unfortunately, that also goes for kits. If anyone saw my video out in the desert, you may have noticed that a Viking that I built that used a recommended or approved, I guess I should say, fin configuration was not stable when you flew it with a C65. So I didn't realize it at the time, of course, so it gave a nice skywriting exhibition. But when I got home, I put it into OR, and yeah, sure enough, stable on an A3 and a B64, not stable on a C65. 6 grams of nose weight. Man, I wish I had known that ahead of time. I would have put it in there. It would have been interesting to see how high it flew. But, you know, these things happen. Oops. I'm having trouble getting this into the actual nose part of the nose cone. All right, that's better. Which is weird because the other one, the yellow one, perfect. Now, like I said before, I have no idea what kind of plastic this is. Some poly something or other, I'm guessing. Oops, I just realized I'm jiggling the camera. Sorry about that. So looking over at the recommended engines for these, so they generally recommend A83, B64, C65. Now I can tell you that I weighed the bird of prey, the Klingon. With an engine in it, it weighs way more than 3 ounces, which is the max lift-off weight for an A83. So I would not recommend trying to fly this with an A83. When I do tests, in fact, some of them even say Quest A64s. Now, I've never used those. They might be more powerful than A83 given the way SD's labels their rocket engines. Interesting enough, the Star Traveler only says C65. So, I'll probably launch them all on B64s, except for maybe the Star Traveler. Although, you know, given the weight of it, I may use C63s. Okay. Yep, that looks good. Okay. So, we're all done with all the modifications. So, one other thing I was going to mention. Now, these two fin cans look identical, but they're not. This particular rocket, which is the X2 Invader, is supposed to have exhaust nozzles. But with the screw-on retainer, those aren't going to fit. So we're going to leave those off. So if you wanted to super detail your model, I don't know, maybe you could drill new holes and put them in there. But yeah, I'm not going to be that concerned about it. So I just wanted to mention that in case anyone was wondering about that. What's the other one that has that? The Galactic Training Ship, this one right here. It also has nozzle holes that we won't be putting on there. So that's all the modifications. Next time you see these, they'll be assembled. And then we'll see about getting out to the range and doing some launching. See what happens. All right, all 4 rockets are done. They've been stickered, put together. The stickers aren't great. They don't really like to stick to the nose cones that well. My guess is they'll fall off after the first flight. But they look pretty good. I mean, that's the main attraction of these things, besides being really cheap, is that they actually look pretty nice. So like I said, we have our 3 Duck Dodger, Star Traveler, X2 Invader, and Cadet Cruiser. And then we have our Galactic Training Ship. And you can see that these two are basically the same rocket. This rocket is basically the same as the Klingon Bird of Prey, with the exception that the Klingon Bird of Prey has different fins and a payload section. And the Star Traveler is completely different. And from what I understand, it's the same as the Red Giant. So I'm looking forward to launching these things and seeing how they fly. And then I'll give you an update about that later. But thanks for watching, and I hope that all the things I showed you will help your rockets fly better. Okay. Klingon, Bird of Prey, initial flight, B64. Launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, very close. Low as expected. Okay, waiting for it to roll around. Okay, great. 135 feet. Okay, Cadet Cruiser B64 initial flight, launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Looks good. All right, let's go see a little farther away this time. Maybe a little higher. Okay, let's see what we have here. (216 feet). All right, Galactic Training Ship 1, B64, launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another good but low launch. All right. Probably not as high as Klingon, actually. Okay, let's see what we got here. Whoa. 174. All right, this is the X2 Invader B64, launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right. Well, had an audience this time. Okay, let's see what we have this time. 168 feet. Okay, we have Duck Dodger Star Traveler, altimeter C63, and AstroCam. Launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, nice flight. A lot more walking involved. Okay, see what we got here. It's like 416 feet. Okay, we have Duck Dodger Star Okay, this is a Viking. It was unstable in the desert with Kevin, but I have a payload bay with altimeter in there. Should make up the difference. I'm using the different nose cone because the other one's weighted now. All right, well, so we're launching in. Well, this has a B64. Launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Looking good. Streaming on down. All right, let's go see. Nice stable flight. Okay, get the altimeter out of there. See where we're at here. Oh, come on, get out of there. Okay, something's obviously wrong because it says it was 5,051 feet. It was high, but not that high. All right, bummer.